Clients aren't hiring you based on what you say. They're hiring you based on how we make them feel. In fact, how you present yourself and how you deliver what it is that you say signals to the prospect your level of competency, your level of confidence, and whether or not the prospect can trust you. And here's the crazy thing. You can be a better agent, know more about the market, have more experience, but still lose a listing to an agent who is a more powerful communicator. So yes, your ability to communicate will determine your level of success in real estate sales. And so I'm going to share the skills that will turn you into a master communicator. That once you master these skills, two things will happen. Number one, you will be able to enroll the best clients in the market. The clients that every other agent in your market wishes they had, but they don't. And two, you'll start earning an abundance of income. So let's start by introducing you to the 4 buckets of communication. 1 is the words we choose. And as you already know, that is the least important, followed by your delivery. How you say what you say is much more important than the words you choose. Your body language, what the prospect actually sees, is more important than how you say, and certainly much more important than what you say. And then lastly, the most important is the connection. How does the person feel when you are communicating with them? Because like we just mentioned, how you make them feel will determine whether or not they decide to do business with you. Now, if you stick with me, and most people can't, this is going to be probably a longer video, but if you stick with me as a bonus, I am also going to go through how to communicate to the 4 main personality styles. Agents that I coach ask me for this more so than probably anything else. And so I'm going to give you a masterclass on how to communicate with analyticals, drivers, amiables, and expressives. So let's start off with bucket number 1, which is the words. So what do you need to say is one, the easiest part of this entire process, yet I think it's what agents want the most. Brandon, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? This is simple. In fact, I'm just going to put a link right underneath this video for you to grab all of my scripts. This will give you all the what you think are the magic words to say. Yes, I put 20 years into what to say, but that's like literally just the tip of the iceberg. But grab those if you want so you can follow along. I'm going to move right on to bucket number 2, which is delivery. So let me give you an example of the first skill in this bucket and see if you can pick it up. Now, let's pretend you're a busy buyer and you see the home that's perfect for you and your family, and it's been on the market for 3 days. There's a bunch of competition from other buyers that also want the home. What type of offer do you think we should put that makes yourself stand out as the highest likelihood that the seller will choose your offer over the other buyers? Now, how did that sound? Well, let me compare that example to this example. Now, John, let's pretend you're the buyer. You see the home that's perfect for you and your family, and it's only been on the market for 3 days. But here's the thing. There's a bunch of competition from other buyers that also want the home. Knowing that, what type of offer would you want to make such that you give yourself the highest likelihood that the seller will choose your offer over the other buyers? Now, did you catch it? Did you figure out which skill we're talking about? Well, let's talk about skill number 1, which is the strategic pause. You see, this is the skill that most people overlook like crazy. And the reason is you heard me in that first example. As I just rambled on without any pauses, you see, the thing is our brains are wired to crave what we call white space. So this is a term used to describe this blank space or negative space. It significantly enhances our ability to focus and to process information. Without it, we kind of get confused and we kind of lose attention. And so our brains have a very limited processing capacity. So when confronted with just too much information, crammed all together, like I just gave you, it gets overwhelming, which leads to decreased attention span. So if you want to hold attention, use the strategic pause more often. So let me quickly run through the 9 benefits of using the strategic pause more. Number 1, you come across more confident. Fast, nonstop speech can come across as nervous, unsure, and even communicate untrustworthiness. Controlled pacing projects calmness. Number 2, using the strategic pause creates emphasis and impact. So a pause before or after a key statement draws attention to the thing that you're trying to communicate. It acts like a verbal punctuation, letting your message land. Number 3, it gives the person you're talking to time to process what it is that you're saying. Remember, we talked about this? People can only absorb so much at one time. So a pause creates space for them to think, visualize, and feel the weight of what you're saying. Number 4, it reduces your filler words. Like, all make you sound a lot less confident. Pausing instead of filling silence makes you sound more polished. Number 5, strategic pausing builds anticipation. Silence creates curiosity. People lean in, waiting for what's about to happen next. This will help you to become a much more captivating communicator. Number 6, it helps with emotional connection, which is extremely important. We're going to talk all about this in today's video. It's a lot less about what you say and how you make people feel. So pausing after a joke or maybe even a story or a serious point allows the person you're talking with to feel the moment with you. Number 7, it gives you time to think. So pausing gives you the time to read the other person, to see how what you're saying lands with them so that you can prepare your next move. Do I need to go deeper? Do I need to make sure that they understand before I move on and ask something different? Number 8, it increases persuasiveness. See, lawyers, leaders, great salespeople often pause before they deliver the strongest points to make their language more compelling. And number 9, it makes you stand out. People don't remember what you said. They only remember how you made them feel. So let's get into skill number 2. See if you can catch this. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do today. 1, how I plan to position your home in the market such that it stands out from all the other homes for sale. Number 2, how all the numbers work so that you can get a good idea of how much you'll walk away with in your pocket net bottom line. And then finally, at the end, we can decide if working together makes sense or not. Does all that seem fair? Okay, now let me go through the script using skill 1 and skill 2 at the same time. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do today. Number 1, how I plan to position your home in the market such that it stands out from all the other homes for sale. And then number 2, how all the numbers work so that you can get a really good idea of how much you're going to walk away with in your pocket, net bottom line. And then finally, at the end, we can decide if working together makes sense or not. Does all that seem fair? So what are we talking about in skill 2? We're talking about pace. So pace keeps attention and engagement. You saw that in the first example, I was very maybe monotone. It was kind of boring. Maybe I was even losing you. I'm trying to exaggerate the point, of course. But if you speak at the same speed the entire time, people tune out. This is what I'm working on in these YouTube videos right now. It doesn't just show up in your listing presentations or buyer consultations. This shows up in all communication in all areas of your life. So if you were to change your pace, and varying your pace acts like verbal punctuation. It keeps the listener's brain engaged. It also creates emphasis and impact. Slowing down on keywords or phrases makes them land harder. Speeding up slightly during a story can build excitement and energy. Changing your pace shows confidence and control. Rushed, nonstop talking feels a bit anxious, feels a little bit nervous, and a controlled pace with intentional pauses, changing of pace signals authority and presence. It adds emotion. Think of great speakers or actors. They speed up in moments of excitement, then they slow down for that dramatic effect. Pace creates rhythm, and rhythm is what makes communication more memorable. So let's move on to skill number 3. Okay, so here's example 1. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do today. Number 1, how I plan to position your home in the market such that it stands out from all the other homes for sale. 2, how the numbers work so that you can get a good idea of how much you'd walk away with in your pocket net bottom line. And then finally, at the end, we can decide if working together makes sense or not. Does all that seem fair? Now, let's contrast that with example number 2, using all 3 skills. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do today. Number 1, how I plan to position your home in the market such that it stands out from all of our competition. Number 2, how the numbers work so that you can get a really, really good idea of when the home sells, how much you're going to net in your pocket, net bottom line. And then finally, at the end, we can decide if working together makes sense or not. Now, John, does all that seem fair? Okay, did you catch that? Now we're talking about volume. So now we're starting to put it all together. So we've got all 3 vocal skills coming together. So using the right volume puts an emphasis on your authority. So raising your voice slightly, not yelling, we're not screaming like this. Sorry if you're in the car with your speakers. But raising your voice signals, listen, this matters. Pay attention to this. Lowering your voice draws people in. It creates intimacy and impact. It keeps people engaged. A flat, monotone delivery puts people to sleep. I've heard so many listing appointments where I listen to it, I'm like, dude, this is boring. So if you vary your volume, it creates some contrast and it keeps the brain on high alert. It expresses emotion and energy. Louder tones convey passion, excitement, and urgency, and softer tones create seriousness, sincerity, vulnerability. This emotional range makes you very, very relatable, and yet again, makes you very memorable. Changing your volume shows confidence and presence to own the room. So if you speak too quietly, you come across kind of insecure, unsure of yourself. Speaking with strong, steady volume, however, without shouting, remember, we're not yelling at the prospect, it shows that you believe in what you're saying. All right, now that we talked about the vocal delivery of your communication, what and how you sound like when you say what you say, now we have to talk about the next most important thing, which is body language. Now, you guys all know that your body speaks a lot louder than the words you say. And certainly we talked about how you say the words that you say is much important than the words themselves, but body language is even more important. There are 4 skills. Skill number 1 is what we call posture. So your body, just like we talked about, often speaks before your mouth even opens. So stand tall, shoulders back, shoulders relaxed, feet grounded. Avoid crossing your arms or slouching over. This signals defensiveness, maybe even a little bit of low confidence. So an open posture, however, makes you look approachable and, more importantly, trustworthy. The next skill in body language is eye contact and your facial expressions. You probably have done this before in your life where, their face says it all. Well, that's what we're talking about here. So eye contact and facial expression. So eye contact builds trust while your face communicates emotion. So too little eye contact, looking away from people, making no eye contact, feels a little kind of shifty or disengaged, while too much feels very intimidating. Like, you just penetrate right through their soul. So you've got to find a little balance. Also, you want to smile when appropriate. And so while you're communicating to prospective clients, smile, be happy, bring some good energy, which we'll talk about in just a second, because it makes you instantly more likable, and more approachable. Skill 3 with inside body language is your gestures and movement. So I am a huge talker with my hands, as you guys all probably know. And your hands can emphasize the points that you're making. You do it too much, right? It's very, very, very distracting, but your hands help you to deliver what it is that you're trying to communicate. So you want to keep your gestures natural and aligned with your words. You've seen me do that throughout this entire video. So in addition to that, we want to avoid fidgeting or tapping your foot or crossing your hands and awkwardly. I've seen some people kind of like click their pen nonstop at a listing appointment, and I'm like kicking them under the table, like, dude, stop, right? So none of that. We want to make sure that we use intentional movements, like opening up your palms when you're making a point to add more power, more emphasis. And then skill 4 is your energy. So confidence and energy go together. Presence is about how you show up in the room. Low energy makes people completely tune out. When people just own the room, they can walk into it and you just feel the energy. Well, this is what we want you to do. When you go to a listing appointment, we want you to own the room. We want you to light up the room. And confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about showing certainty in your delivery. Project that energy, that confidence through your voice. We just got done talking about that. Through eye contact and an upright posture. All right, so now let's move on to bucket number 4, which is connection. Now, this is by far and away the most important piece. If you want to be a master communicator, one that, like we talked about at the beginning of the video, enrolls amazing world-class clients and makes you incredible money, which is what all great communicators must master in order to level up their income, this is it. And here's a hint. This is by far the most important point in the entire video. So if you're out walking the cat, let's rein in the focus and pay attention. Because at the end of the day, people won't just remember what you said. They'll only remember how you make them feel. Hopefully you're yelling that through the computer now. So let's talk about skill number 1 in bucket 4, active listening. So most people don't really listen. They just wait for their turn to talk. And boy, oh boy, is this true for realtors. I see all of you when you're making your prospecting calls or you're following up or you're at a listing appointment. You're just waiting for the prospect to finish talking so that you can go to the next line on the script, aren't you? Be honest. I understand. I've seen it. And so we're not actually listening with the intent to engage with somebody. And they know it. That's why you're not evoking any emotion. You don't evoke any feeling. And thus people don't do business with you. So if you nod and you paraphrase what someone just said to you, we call it parroting. So someone just communicates something to you and you paraphrase or you parrot back a high level understanding of what it is that they just said. You show that you care and that you show that you're engaged. Thus, the person feels heard. You've heard the saying, I'm sure a million different times. People don't care how much you know until they what? Know how much you care. Skill number 2 is empathy. So empathy is where we have to match people's emotions. If they're excited, join them. If they're upset, soften the tone. That's how you connect on a human level. So you have to read the room. Pay attention. Are they leaning in or do they look confused? If you're tuned in, you can just adjust that in real time. You know where you have to maybe dig a little bit deeper. You got to pause, slow down, maybe even go back. And then you have to be adaptable. Not every single audience is the same. Speak to their world, not just yours. The best communicators in the world can adjust their style based on who's in front of them, which brings us right into the bonus that I told all of you that are still watching this video I would give you, which is I'm going to break down how you can adapt your communication style based on what what personality style you have in front of you. Not everyone's the same. Not everyone's just one of these, but we all have one primary dominant personality style. So let's start off with the analytical. This is the engineer type. This is probably the personality style that most of us in sales just really, really does not like to sell to. So the analytical is very data driven. They're very, very detail oriented, which is like the opposite of most salespeople. So what they value is facts, data, accuracy, logical structure, right? Analyticals drive most other personality styles crazy. So here's how we have to communicate with them, though. If you want to do business with them, you have to be extremely prepared. You have to be extremely organized. You have to present information in a step-by-step fashion. You cannot be all over the map. It must be structured and it must be organized, such that sort of like what I'm doing right now in this presentation, we have to avoid the exaggeration. And you see a lot of other personality styles tend to exaggerate things a bit. They want evidence, not hype. So give them time to process before pushing them to make a decision. Analyticals just don't like making decisions on the spot. If you've ever been out to eat with one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like half the people are done eating before they've made their decision on what they want to eat. So here's just a small little example. Instead of saying, this will absolutely work, trust me, say this instead. Here are the numbers, and here's the process that shows why this works. This will help you to communicate much better with the analytical and to shift your communication style such that you can communicate to their world, not your world. So let's shift gears and talk about the driver. So this is the results-focused, decisive, action-oriented person. Some people are intimidated by drivers. It's just that they don't know how to communicate to them. So here's what they value. They value efficiency, being in control, and bottom line results. They don't want the BS. They don't want the fluff. They just want you to give it to them. So here's how we have to communicate. We have to be direct and to the point. You cannot beat around the bush. They'll sense it. It will piss them off. You must be direct and you must get to the point. Focus on results and outcomes, not the long, drawn out stories and all the details. They don't need to get caught up in the details. They just want the bottom line. Let them feel in control. The best way to maintain control is by giving it up. So give the driver the perception that they're in control the entire time. Show confidence, not hesitation. And so let me give you an example of some language. So instead of saying things like, hey, let me show you all the active listings that we're going to compete with, where they're just like, oh boy, here we go. You know what? I don't need that. Instead, say something like this. John, here's the bottom line. To compete with the other two homes across the street, we need to be priced at X. But of course, that's your call. That is how we deliver the point, by being direct, by being focused, by showing confidence, but at the same time, allowing them to maintain the perception that they are in control. Let's talk about the amiable. This is everybody's best friend. This is the person that never wants conflict. And, side note, if you're ever going to hire an assistant, make sure they're a high amiable. Trust me on that. Okay. The amiable is the relationship focused, supportive, cooperative. They just want to go with the flow. It doesn't really matter to them. They just want to please people. So what they value is trust, harmony, and personal connection. So here's how you need to communicate to an amiable. So they take time to build rapport before diving into the meat and the potatoes. So this is the type of person that just wants to know how much you care, a lot more than like the details and all the analytical side of real estate. They just want to know that you care about them. So be warm, be patient, be reassuring. Emphasize teamwork and long-term relationships. These are the people that, if done right, will send you a lot of referrals. And then avoid being too aggressive or too pushy. See, if you're a driver, if you have that personality and you're communicating to an amiable, you can scare these people off very, very easily. So be careful. So instead of saying, hey, John, Nancy, here's what we need to do today. Instead, say something like this. Listen, I want to make sure this all makes sense and that you're comfortable with this before we talk about anything else. Is that fair? Is that okay? And they will really, really appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about the expressive. So I am a recovering expressive, now probably higher on the driver side of things, but my expressive personality is still pretty high. So this is the enthusiastic, the talkative, the high energy person, the life of the party. This is what they value. They value energy, excitement, big ideas, and most importantly, recognition. They want to be liked. So the amiable just doesn't want any conflict. The expressive wants everyone to like them. So here's how we need to communicate to the expressive. We need to be enthusiastic. We need to bring very, very high energy. We need to use stories, visuals, and all the possibilities to inspire them. Acknowledge their ideas and their contributions, but keep it lively. Don't drown them in details. They hate them. The expressive is the most unorganized personality of them all. So they despise the details. They're the opposite of the analytical, such that the driver and the amiable are opposites. So language, instead of saying, listen, in order to compete with the other homes, they don't want that. Say this instead. Listen, John, Nancy, you've done so much to your home that buyers are going to love. What do you guys think we should highlight the most? These are the people that when you give them a stroke, it goes a long way. All right, so listen, being a powerful communicator isn't about having the perfect script, and it's not trying to be something or someone you're not. It's about mastering the 4 pillars we discussed: your message, your voice, your presence, and your connection. And then how to match your style to meet others where they're at. And when you do this, you're not just talking, you influence, you inspire, you build trust faster, you avoid unnecessary tension, and you open the doors to opportunities that your competitors will never have. And remember, people will often forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel.